Hey, great day. Welcome back to the podcast. So in today's episode, we will be talking about offering a guarantee, aka a refund policy to your products and or your services, and maybe even processing why you may choose to attach a refund policy to certain products. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my experience, because really this comes from not a strategy, but a mindset, area. And so I did not have a refund policy in place for pretty much any of my products or services. The products and services that I had before 2019 were either one-on-one coaching, where people would have like a 4 or 8 week, session with me one-on-one, either, on Zoom or in person in Los Angeles, California. I had a therapy practice. I went from a solo practice to a group practice, and clearly with therapy, there's no refunds. But then I would also host like master classes, do webinars, and, things like that. And so when I started investing in myself, I started to recognize that, I didn't even know that refunds were a thing, because it was outright said on the page through some digital products that I invested in that there is no refund, so I didn't even think to second guess, like to create a refund policy. And so I launched the Dope Therapist Academy back in July of 2019 as a group, because before that, like I said, I was doing one-on-one coaching with therapists to help them, brand their private practice. But I didn't really have a group product for it yet, because, after I met a few of them, they realized they were doing it by themselves. And then that's how DTA pretty much was like birthed. And so in 2018, I invested in a coaching program where there was no refund, but I really enjoyed it. It helped me build out my first course modules for now what's known as DTA. And then a year and a half later, I joined my mentors program, Business by Design, which is like your instructional Lego manual of how to launch various digital products. So you really just have to know, what is your niche? What do you want to offer? And then go follow the instructions, right? So when I joined his program, there is actually a lesson embedded in his program that talks about the guarantee. And in the academy, the way that we talk about the guarantee is your framework. Like, how are you going to help a client get the transformation out of therapy? What is your process? What is your theoretical orientation? That's one type of guarantee. The guarantee that I'm referring to is you may have a certain amount of time, days, months, kind of like Nordstrom's or something, to get your money back. Now, some people may be thinking like, heck no, them people invested in the program. I done did all this to offer the product or service. They need to know what they signing up for, and they ain't get no refund. And that may be the case. I think that for me, that's the case with live events, because you're securing a physical seat. And to me, the capacity looks different when we're in person versus when we have an ongoing program with a larger amount of people. If one person decides that they're not a good match, which I'll get into in a second, I'd rather them leave early, sooner than later. And so with that said, I want to share with you some of my takeaways over the last 3 years in which I started creating my own refund policy. So first things first, I had to realize going through his program that I had to challenge myself with limiting beliefs about poverty, brokenness, where sometimes the automatic thought is, if I give a refund, I'm not gonna have that money no more. And you really want to reframe that thinking and think about, well, what kind of energy will that person bring you if they continue in your services? So let's just flip it to the therapy side. I gave this analogy to my clientele in the Dope Therapist Academy. If somebody was paying you your private pay rate, $100, $150, $200 or up, and they were your ideal client, you thought, because I hope your ideal client do homework activities if you give it to them. And then you realize that they're not consistent with showing, they cancel. They're not consistent. They agreed that they were going to do homework activities. You give it to them once a month. They never do it. And after about 3 months of this and you noticing a pattern, the question I posed to my audience, well, what would you do? I didn't give them any hints, but they know the answer. The answer is, after they've had probably a conversation or two, they need to cut that cord. Hire slow, fire fast. That's what I learned from the HR department, and I apply it to my coaching clients. If I have a refund policy in place, I'd rather get you out of that program in the first 7 to 14 days, because I don't want you to spread the energy that you have with our other clients. Now, what kind of energy am I referring to? We actually haven't had no outlandish reasons as to why people left the program, oh my God, I hate it here, and things like that. So we've been very lucky, knock on wood, that we've had less than 10 people in 3 years ask for a refund. 10. Most programs have a 5% rate of refunds. And the way that I've learned about refunds too is you're decreasing the risk on the person, because maybe the risk is, oh, I don't know if I'm really, really gonna like it when I get in. Well, let's try it out. Because if that person doesn't join and then they regret it, now we got another issue, because you could have transformed their life, their business, whatever product or service you have. And because simply they weren't all the way ready or willing to bet on themselves, but they know they needed your help. If they would have had that guarantee policy, it would have probably pulled them in at the last minute. That's how I see it, right? I'd rather you try out and drive the car and you're ready to do the work, but maybe you don't know and you join. Versus I say, like, if you're just trying to be nosy and see what I make, then don't join, right? So when I first, hire slow, fire fast. So let's go back to that. So when I started the DTA program, let me just go to my notes so I won't be going everywhere. I took the same approach of the HR version, hire slow, fire fast, in all of my products or services. So like I said, with therapy, if somebody was not a good match during the consultation, I'm not even about to test that out and schedule them for an intake. If they are not showing up for a session, if they keep canceling every other session, oh, they don't want this slot no more. If they not doing homework activities and they're not making progress over time, meaning they're not having no trauma come up or things like that, and it just looks like they're not invested, then especially if my caseload is full, but even if it's not, I now tell my clients at the beginning of treatment, I will lay you off. And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, if I feel like over time, not if I feel like, but if you're showing that you're not showing up to transform your life, because you sought out mental health services and you said that I was a good match to help you through whatever you're going through. If you realize throughout this process that you ain't actually ready to do the work, and we've tried to work through, pre-contemplation, contemplation, like ambivalence and all those things, because I educate them on that as well during the intake process, then it may not be the best time to seek treatment. And it may not be that you and I are not a good match. It just may be kind of like even in a coaching program or in a course, you may get into it and realize you ain't really ready for it. You're not ready to make that commitment to yourself. It has nothing to do with me. You're not committed to you, because you have to be committed to you first before I can even come in and help you. Right? Therapy here, one-on-one, right? So the same thing goes for my coaching programs. DTA has a certain amount of time that people can come into the program and ask for a refund before it's denied, right? And so we talk about this during the open enrollment period. We email it to people. We heighten the sense of it on Instagram and things like that. So the journey that I've been through to become more confident with my product or service too, because the more and more social proof that I got and I started to interview those students on my podcast, I started to specifically see a difference between those who were saying that, I don't know, it's overwhelming versus those who finished the program, right? So these are the trends that we would see with people who asked for a refund, and it wasn't anything like super bad. One or two people said they really wanted one-on-one coaching, group isn't for them. Now, depending on who these people were, because some people, me or my team was talking to in the DM or on Zoom or something like that, if we had like Zoom interviews or getting to know them, it was very clear that it was a group program. I made sure that I repeated that like 5,000 times. Certain individuals, because I get familiar with names if you come to the boot camp and you're participating. That's why I have you participate, so I can know who you are, right? So if I know who you are and you're in my DM and you're asking about the group aspect, I can only guess one thing. Either something else is wrong as to why you can't finish the program. I have found out later that sometimes it's financial hardship and it's maybe shameful for that person to identify with someone who they really don't know, me as a coach, that it's really a financial reason as to why they can't do it. But sometimes people will say they want one-on-one coaching, and what would I say? Okay, well, I have the mastermind. It's only for scalable products or services, and the investment is valued at $16,000 at minimum to get in. And they're like, oh, well, wait, DTA is only $333. Well, DTA is a growth program. We're talking about building you out a whole team, building you out a whole team portal, helping you grow your group practice so that you can make multiple six figures beyond yourself. DTA is getting you to that six figure, maybe 150 mark by yourself with a little bit of staff. We're talking about scaling your time, meaning working less, but we can't work less if you don't even know how to work first. Now, this isn't something that I say, but in so many words, I let them know if you want one-on-one for really accountability, because people can get their questions answered in DTA if you just show up and ask your question, or you go over to Facebook and ask your question. So it's really about, are you, and some of them I have been able to have this conversation because they outright say like, what do you think it is? And I'm like, are you prideful? Do you feel like you don't want to say your question in front of other people? Is it more you're intimidated by asking your question in front of a group? And so if they say yes or something like that, if they admit it, I'll then turn around and say, okay, what's your long-term goal here beyond private practice? And they'll say something like, oh, speaking. Speaking. So who do you speak in front of? Oh, a group of people. So you're fine with speaking to a group of people on a stage in person about your expertise and get paid for it. But you're not okay with speaking around like-minded cheerleaders that are going to help you grow your business. And when I position it that way, or even if this is you, I hope that I'm striking a chord, because I understand that everybody, may not prefer to do a group, but I also believe that we're grown as people. And there may have been a time where you may have said, I'm not a test taking person, but I bet you bottom dollar, like you sat down and studied for that exam to get licensed though. I always told myself, I hate a standardized test. It's a joke. I don't do well on standardized tests. Well, guess what happened with that narrative? I failed the first exam twice, passed it on the third try. Well, what happened on the third try? I started telling myself, I am a good test taker. I've already passed a test. I had to change my narrative. So even though you may have believed, and it's been ingrained in your brain probably through grad school, that everything is one-on-one, supervision is one-on-one, therapy is one-on-one, right? It's been ingrained in you. I understand it, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn how to operate differently for your business. And if you need one-on-one accountability, then you have to be willing to invest in somebody's one-on-one time. Because guess what? What do you charge for one-on-one therapy versus group therapy? For group therapy, when we break it down, it may be $40 a session. But let somebody get you one-on-one. Oh no, that's $200. Well, why is it a difference between one-on-one versus group with you? It's the same with coaching. We value like the pricing investment based on what we know you can do if you put the work in. Again, it goes back to you. All right. So, some people said the group thing. We had some people who I just don't believe that they watch any replays of any boot camps. They didn't get it to my DM. They didn't answer any questions. Maybe they were operating off of an adrenaline rush and they just joined and realized, oh wait, I either know all this and have implemented it. Congratulations. And, or, I thought this program was about this. And I'll be thinking like, how is that possible? We didn't mention anything like that in this program. So there's just like mishaps. We've only had like 2 or 3 of those. And then we have had 2 people, and I'm saying the numbers because we haven't had that many. We had 2 people who went in and just realized like, I'm just gonna say my 9 to 5. I didn't realize that even showing up to the first coaching call, that it take all this to run a business. And I'm like, well, it don't have to take all this if you want to operate it like a side hustle, but if you want it to be an actual business, then I want you to have a good one. And those are my standards. You can go and join somebody else's program who have lower standards. I have very high standards for our clinicians, right? So, and that's why we got a good track record. So with that said, our guarantee or refund policy evolution is as follows. The first go round, it was called, and there's no right or wrong. My mentor taught us different kinds. So the first type that I tried was show your work. We ran into so many issues with that because show your work meant that we checked the Kajabi portal, and you had to do it within 30 days. We checked the Kajabi portal. If you're telling us the program doesn't work, but you ain't working the program, like, yeah, we declining you, right? That means that you didn't make time to go log in. Like, let's be all the way real, right? And so, or you don't want to tell us what's really going on. Let us work with you versus against you. We don't want to work against you. We want to help you, right? We're just going to tell you to slow down, maybe take a break from coaching calls, come back. Life is life, man. Especially when we did it in 2020, 2021, there was a lot of grief and loss. Take a break. Like, don't be in a rush to your abundance. Take your time so that you can enjoy the journey and soak up the information. And so, that over time, we just had a lot of challenges like, well, I just want a refund anyway. Like, that was a tone we were getting via email, but they knew what signing a contract, what the policy was. And even in the beginning, we didn't have a contract. We had terms and conditions, and people would say, well, I didn't read that version. I'm like, y'all are therapists. Y'all got consent forms. How would you like it? Let me flip it back. And I didn't say this, but I'm saying it to you. How would you like if a client told you, which they have in some cases, I don't remember seeing that clause on the policy form, and you literally give them the consent form and the policy form with a signature, and they say, well, I don't remember reading that. Well, I've learned my lesson in therapy too, where because I know that some people skim emails, contracts, terms and conditions, I'm gonna make sure to talk about it in a boot camp. I'm gonna make sure to talk about it in a consultation. I'm gonna make sure to talk about it in the intake process. And if you ghost me or don't show for one therapy session, I'm gonna make sure to talk about it before I charge your car for that no-show. So you can know about it for the second time you decide to do it, right? So with that said, we implemented contracts. So when people tried to challenge us on, well, I didn't know it was a 7-day or 14-day or whatever the policy was, now our team has gotten so good, boy, where we will quickly send your contract back that you got a copy of. And we will say, please check page X. This is what you said you agree on. This is the date you signed it. This is your signature. This is your name typed in. And nobody argues with us. Plus, we also show them a snapshot, if it takes that, of their portal. And we say the reason why maybe you're not getting what you need is that we noticed based off our attendance roster, you haven't came to any coaching calls. We logged into the portal and saw that you didn't watch any replays. We holding your ass accountable. That's what I'm saying. Like, some people do that for one-on-one. I'm doing that for the group. So we went through a 30-day show your work. Then we said, okay, we're giving them too much time to overthink. So let's minimize it to 14 days. And the only reason we did 14 days is because we had a longer enrollment period, like 10 days. So we gave people who joined maybe on the front end more time to get in, maybe attend one coaching call and have time to go through the portal. And we were teaching everything live back then. We did that for about a year, still had the contract, gonna keep the contract. And then I decided in 2022, you know what? Because people can go in and get access to the portal right away, because before we would have to give them access to the portal after they sign the contract. I'm like, nope, we're gonna do the honor system. These are grown ass people. So soon as you sign up and get your receipt, within 15 minutes, you got a confirmation email, a welcome email from us. You get an email from our system saying you granted access to your portal plus whatever bonuses you get. And then go in and start working. There's an orientation video. There's a whole welcome series. There's certain things that are mandatory to unlock the next lesson. But whatever it is, the earlier you join, this is what we tell people, the earlier you join, if you can, in the open enrollment period, the earlier you can get into that portal. Because whether we have a 7-day period for the first coaching call, or maybe if it's a holiday, we may have 14 days before your next coaching call. We want to give you time to at least get to Blueprint so that you're at least familiar with our framework, right? And you do the pre-mindset work that's a bonus in the portal. And so since we've implemented the 7-day policy, we have had on one hand people request a refund. So why is that? Let's move there to like the second portion of this podcast show or episode. I believe that the reason why a lot of people don't request a refund, even though it's readily available, is that I do a good job of spending time and building a relationship with the potential clientele. I love doing live. I love doing videos. I love doing podcasts. I love hopping in the DM to answer questions about like the program. I love just interacting with the therapist, you know? And so with that said, I have found that our takeaways from all of our boot camps or, you know, any master classes that we've hosted is that people were very surprised that it was my voice note in their DM. They thought it was gonna be my team or it was gonna be a bot or something like that. And I'm like, nah, this is me. You know what I'm saying? I may take a day or two to get back to you, but don't wait till the last minute to answer your question if we're closing enrollment like tomorrow at midnight. Don't ask me at 11 o'clock at night. And so a lot of people were just surprised of how engaged and open I was, because sometimes when people see the level of success, a lot of times due to monetary success, they will automatically categorize it as, oh, they're untouchable. I've had people like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. To a degree, I'm untouchable. And I don't mind saying that out loud. And when I say untouchable, it doesn't mean that I'm not personable and not relatable. It just means that I have boundaries around, you're not going to milk me for information. You can't have me give a whole coaching session in the DM. But I will give you information. I may challenge you on your mindset if you open up to certain things, but I'm not going to give you a full-fledged coaching session that my students that invest in the mastermind level, this is what they joined that program for, is to get me one-on-one and like milk me for information. Like that is their job, right? But DTA students can do the same thing on a group call. They can do the same thing on Facebook as long as it's operating within the fidelity of growing a solo private practice. But you're not gonna milk me to grow a digital product. Like that's out. Like, nah, you need to either go to my mentors program that I affiliate with once a year, or you got to join a mastermind or go join another program. And so now we have a 7-day policy. And there was one student within the last year that requested a refund because she didn't know if it would be the right fit for her after she got in. But luckily she had a coaching call like the day after she emailed us, and she was still within like 3 more days of the refund policy. So I told my team, I said, you know what? Let's just overly do it. Like, I'll be hella extra. So I'm like, let's just do this. Let's have her, tell her to come to the coaching call, and she can inbox you or send you a message on Zoom privately. I just want her to attend the first coaching call, and then after the call, let us know if she still wants to proceed. I ain't gonna talk her into nothing. Like, it's a no questions asked policy. Now, just because I say no questions asked, I still want to know why you did not stay in it, because that's gonna help us help other people if they question the same thing. What do I need to break down? If there's a level of, because we've had all of this too. Oh, I feel overwhelmed by the materials. And so we intentionally unlock each lesson after you've done the previous one. So if you go in order, because this is what I can see happening. A student can go through the main modules, and then they heard me say, oh yeah, in the Q&A portal, there's something about insurance panels. And they're like, oh my God, I'm on insurance panels. So then they go and they start binge watching random Q&As, for example. Bonuses from coaching calls that they shouldn't be focused on that right now. And then they start going everywhere. That can become overwhelming. The whole purpose of it being module 1 through 5, and the reason why you have the pre-assessment and the mindset work first and the orientation and the Facebook, the goal is that you go in order. Also, the goal for me is that when you give me feedback, I've had feedback from students that said like it's been a hit or miss. Okay, again, like I said in a previous episode, I know I can't please everybody, but I try my best to like enhance our program to meet the needs of our clientele. So there was a time where when I was teaching live, I would teach live, but then we would answer their questions. Hence, during the pandemic, we were on calls for like 4 hours on a Saturday for like 4 to 5 weeks. Very high-paced program, right? But it was during a serious time where people needed clients and they needed to build their business. Then after about 1.5 2 years of doing it live, I started recognizing things like students stop showing their faces on the calls, right? And so I started telling them, like, it was kind of like a threat. And I told them like, yo, not in a negative way, but I just said, listen, if y'all don't want to show y'all face on the call, and it literally feels like I'm doing a webinar, and y'all don't want to show up and ask questions, I can host this call on Facebook. It's going to be the same activity. Y'all just going to ask me questions after the call. Like, we go back to Facebook. So when I start telling that to the students, I'm not saying that everybody shows their face, but at least I know that I'm engaging with people. Then we went through a phase of, okay, now all the lessons are pre-recorded. So the first phase was, I'm going to go in the order of the portal, BRAND. No matter when you join, you can come back and jump into a topic call. Well, what I noticed was that people were asking questions about materials that were in the portal, which told me, oh, you ain't taking your time to watch the replay, and kind of like a college class, you want me to reteach what we already have? That doesn't make sense. Take your time and go watch the 15-minute video. And I can tell based off the questions that you ain't watched the video because I created like 60 plus 70 something videos or whatever. And so usually I would redirect them. So then after we start getting in higher, like I'm gonna say, like we just start attracting like 100% quality clients. I ain't saying that we didn't ever attract them, but it felt like we got better and better with like people going all in on their business, like full cohorts, like I'm all in, you know what I'm saying? And they start sharing their wins, because that's a big thing. So then we went through a phase of where I really want to be, honestly, and I tell my cohort to today, like what this is. I would prefer to not come in our coaching calls with any agenda. Now let me know in the comments or in my DM if you agree. Now this may not resonate with someone who wants a whole lot of structure, but that's why I created the portal. That's the structure part. Your job is to watch the videos, write down questions that pertains to your business, and then bring it to the coaching call. Now, if you don't want to ask your question, I can't help you. You know what I'm saying? And so my vision, and we're going to keep working toward this, my goal is to show up as a blank slate as your coach with support and information. You ask your questions based on your business, or you ask questions for me to elaborate on implementing something in the portal that I don't have to reteach, but maybe go deeper. And we can talk about the blueprint, reach, automation, niche, or delegation. It does not matter. Now, when we did do that in the second phase, some, not a lot, students were saying the overwhelm. I feel like I'm getting information out of order. I feel like X, Y, and Z, and I can see why they would feel that way. But also, if you show up to the call and you have no questions whatsoever, or you don't want to run anything by me or share with us that you got a private pay client, if you don't want to speak up and say anything, and I can't help you with your business so that you can focus on what you need to focus on, that's not helpful either. How would you like it if you had a silent client? Those clients are not fun. A mute client, literally due to anxiety, they say nothing. That's not very engaging. There's only so much you can and cannot do. So with all that said, kind of like digressing from the guarantee and refund policy, we are currently now at the following. There is a 7-day refund policy from the day that you join, not from the day that we have our first coaching call, nor the first day that you log into the portal. It's from the first day that you join. So if you join on a Monday, even if we haven't had first coaching call, you have to cancel before the 8th day, like the end of the 7th day at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. And you have to fill out a form. Don't DM us. We don't answer the DMs for coaching calls and things like that. I promise you, I will redirect my team to you, And so 7 days, it will give you this. You will at minimum be able to do the mindset work, Unleash Your Inner Boss, because they're all audios. You can walk and work out to those, right? And expand your mind. We take you through the introduction, which is like a pre-assessment and just letting you know how the program works. You will get access to the Facebook group, so you can see how we interact, how therapists share their wins, and how it's a very supportive environment. Then you will also be able, at minimum, to start working on your 5-year vision plan and blueprint that really expands your mind to see where you want your business to go, to make sure you all in. To me, that's a good amount of information to see you implement some of it, to see if you're ready to go all in on your business. So like I said, we have a very low refund policy percentage rate of people who come in because, again, I spend a lot of time nurturing our potential clients about how I show up, how I coach. They can listen to testimonials or podcast episodes about previous students and different levels of students with how they came into the program. I'm also, like I said earlier, willing to remove the risk, meaning I give you 7 days to test drive the car, even beyond the boot camp. From the business side, to like close this out, like the whole hire slow, fire fast. To be quite frank, this is where some people may poverty mindset be stuck. Like, well, we already processed their fees on Stripe or PayPal. We don't get that 2.7% back. You're right. When I process the refund, you getting all the money back. Now, you don't have to do that. You can say I'm deducting the 3% from us processing the fees. As long as it's in your terms and conditions or contract, that's fine. I don't want to do that. If you don't want to be here, or if you feel like you're going to have negative energy, and this is me just being 100% transparent with you as Takesha, but as also a business coach, right? If you don't want to be here, I'm not about to make you stay here. But you do have to do it within our refund policy. Respect that, because you want people to respect you in your business with the integrity that you set up in your policies and in your forms for consent. So if you don't want clients doing certain things to you in your private practice, don't dish out what you can't take back. So I'm going to keep saying that on as many times as it pops into my brain on podcast episodes, because I always find it very interesting, not with a lot, but maybe with a handful, whether it's in my DM, whether it's at a boot camp, whether it's in our actual coaching programs. We just hold our clients to this like pedestal standard. And when someone else gives you the same standard for your business, all of a sudden you ghost your payments. You don't have financial integrity in your personal life. You don't want to answer to bill collectors. You don't want to pay your student loans. No matter if they're going to get forgiven, they ain't got forgiven yet. You can't be mad. You signed up for it. You signed the contract. Okay. So I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast episode, just with me sharing another side to what you can potentially do in, let's just say, a digital product business to lower the risk of people signing up for something, specifically in areas where it doesn't take a lot of your one-on-one time. It's a large amount or a good amount of people in there where one less people ain't gonna like rock your boat. And just remember this: would you rather have them get out of your program soon within your policy, or would you rather them stay in your program and spread that energy around the community? Because energy is contagious. And if they got friends in there, all it takes in our community is to spread one bad word to the wrong person and it's over, right? So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Link up in the show notes if you want to learn more about resources that we have, whether it's about the Dope Therapist Academy, We will be offering a fall cohort in 2023. And then after that, it will not be open up until the spring of 2024. So usually when we have our last cohorts, it could be almost 6 months before we open up the doors to another cohort. So make sure that if you want to start off your year strong for 2024, that you go ahead and check out the bootcamp that we're going to have in the fall, but we'll announce it when we get the dates confirmed with our team. And if you want to learn more about scalability, we do have sometimes CE workshops that come up. And then we also have our last live event that will be open up to the public called the Therapists Deserve Abundance Conference, where we talk about all things scalability, meaning you already are making money in your business, even if it's part-time, but you're making consistent money, and you're now ready to take your one-on-one services to one-to-many, but maybe you want to learn how to launch. You want to then take content and create content based off the product or service that you're launching. You want to brainstorm how you can take one client description and then branch it out into 7 streams of income. You want to build out a product suite, like some things we'll have as a recorded masterclass for you to be prepared to go into the event. And then we expect that when you come, you're going to be all in for participating and having a good time, being around like-minded people, being fired up over 2 days at the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas. And we are really, really excited for the therapists. Thus far, we have a little bit more than half of the room filled, and we had a goal of seating 100 people, but due to flights, inflation, things just getting more higher, more valuable. I don't like to say expensive. A lot of our clientele are not on the West Coast, and I understand that. And so some people have to see how they moving in the fall, and I definitely understand that, but if you need to be in the room. So don't hesitate to get your ticket. And if you have questions about it, don't hesitate to get into my DM and, ask me if you're the right fit for it. But if you do that, you have to tell me about your business first. So go ahead and send that information over to me and tell me about your business so that I can see if you're the right fit for it. Outside of that, please share this episode with 2 or 3 other therapists, healers, or coaches that so that we can, promote this wealth of knowledge on the podcast. If you want to see any resources, go to drtk.com/links. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of all the wide range of videos that we post and educational things that we put out there, and abundant topics as well for mindset. And if you're listening only on the podcast, then please follow the podcast, leave a 5-star review. And for both platforms, let me know what was your biggest takeaway. And if you want to connect more, just hop over to the DM on Instagram and tell me what you liked about the podcast, and maybe even what you want me to go deeper on in certain podcast episodes. Until the next one, I'll see you. Bye.